As a member of the LGBTQIA plus family, can you really say that you understand your rights when it comes to Project 2025? Hey, y'all. I need you to grab your sweet tea, in my case, my coffee, your emotional support dog, whatever you need to get through this, because today we're diving into how Project 2025 affects the LGBTQIA plus community and women. As a lesbian and a woman, I am really ashamed to admit I had never read that document because, I thought, well, there are people out there who are better informed about this than me, and I'm just going to let them explain it to me. So, my dear friend, Gina Montel, who is joining us today to walk us through this, encouraged me to read it for myself, and I did, and I was honestly shocked by what I saw. So I think it's very important as a community that we all understand what is coming down the pipe, or rather what they're trying to have come down the pipe toward us, so that we can be prepared, organize, understand how to protect our rights. Thank y'all for being here. I'm Ashley Hydrick. Welcome back to Your Southern Lesbian.
Your Southern Lesbian, traveling the globe again, from London to California with a little bit of Carolina.
Hey y'all, so I'm here today with Gina Montel, my dear friend from Charleston, South Carolina.
Hi.
Gina and I met, what was it, like 2022, 2023, maybe, when I moved there, and you were leading the meetup group, Charleston Lesbians, or you were one of the gals that was leading it. And you hosted a bowling night or bowling afternoon, and I came, and you were so kind, and we became friends. And thank God for that group in Charleston when I was there, seriously, because it was like a little tiny blue rainbow dot in that red state, which I was very, very grateful for. So welcome. So today, y'all, Gina is in the final studies of getting her master's to be a clinical mental health counselor. And she's very passionate about women's studies and LGBTQ rights. And I love you for that. And we had a fabulous lunch a few weeks ago where all this stuff came up, and we really thought we needed to come on the podcast and talk about how Project 2025 is affecting the LGBTQ community, or could affect, and women's rights. So you also, I want to say this really quickly, you also hosted the Women's March in Charleston, right? Didn't you lead a women's march there a year or so ago?
2 years, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. We salute you. So I'm just going to dive right in, and I'm going to read a little excerpt, y'all, from Project 2025, because some of the verbiage in here, like, I had never actually read a lot of it until we talked, which is a horrible, I'm a bad lesbian, y'all. I was aware because I had heard people talk about it, but I had not gone to the physical document and read, and it is mortifying. The verbiage is in there. So let me just give you all a little excerpt here. So here you go, y'all. The next conservative president must make the institutions of American civil society hard targets for woke cultural warriors. This starts with deleting the terms sexual orientation and gender identity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. To that I say, fuck you. But Gina, I mean, help me out here. Like, give me your thoughts on this.
Well, every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, this is why I'm on antidepressants.
Yeah.
Like you said, the verbiage that's used, the vilifying of LGBTQIA plus communities are already heavily affected by this administration.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it probably makes you really passionate about what you're studying too. It's like, it feels like the world needs people going into what you're going into right now and standing up for people whose mental health is affected by this in our community, and women in general. Like this, I mean, we'll get to women in a second, but right now, specifically the LGBTQIA plus community, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, I mean, we can go ahead and dive into women too. I mean, it goes on to talk about gender equality, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any other term used to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights We'll get back to that. Out of every federal rule, agency regulation, contract, grant, regulation, and piece of legislation that exists. They're coming after everything. It's just like anybody that's not a cis white male, basically, it feels like is
Christian,
under attack.
yeah, Christian male. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it goes on to say the noxious tenets of critical race theory and gender ideology should be excised from curricula in every public school in the country. These theories poison our children who are being taught that, on the one hand, to affirm that the color of their skin fundamentally determines their identity and even their moral status, while on the other, they are being taught to deny the very creatureliness that inheres in being human. What the fuck are you talking about? And consist in accepting the givenness of our nature as men or women. Well, motherfucker, my givenness of my nature as a woman is to love other women. So as far as I'm concerned, discussion closed. But it's like, allowing parents or physicians to reassign the sex of a minor is child abuse and must end. Well, first of all, in most cases, it's already prohibited for anyone under the age of 18 to have a genital gender reassignment surgery. And in some rare cases, older teens can undergo a top surgery, but this requires consent from their parents and evaluations from mental health consultants. Like, people are not just running around willy-nilly like, well, today I think I'll change my gender. I understand where they're coming from as like kids under a certain age, like maybe don't know where they are yet. And I get that. I do get that. Hence why, this isn't done haphazardly. It takes a lot for these kids to go through to live in their bodies, feeling like they weren't born in the right body. And for all of the tests, essentially, they have to pass with mental health counselors, right? And their parents' consent of seeing that these kids could commit suicide. Like, if they really are feeling this depressed about their life, like, would you rather have them alive with a different sex, or would we rather all of these kids, unalive themselves? It's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. They're puberty blockers, right, to put off the hormonal bodily changes that occur, for that demographic.
That's true. Good point.
Yeah, the whole sex category, a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and they are to, get married and create children, specifically white children, which is the attack on immigrants right now.
And the funny thing is, those straight people create us fabulous gay people. Yeah, then what,
Yeah, they sure do. I mean, we are part of the animal kingdom, right? And all sorts of species, research has found ever since the beginning of not the creation, the evolution of humans, people have been, homosexual.
Yeah.
People have expressed a different gender identity. Gender identity is a spectrum, like most things are on a spectrum.
Exactly. I see those videos go around social media all the time of like, look at the two gay birds, look at the two gay, whatever. I mean, it does happen. I feel like, and I have to be very careful with my words here because I don't want people coming at me. This president and this administration is trying to pass their agendas through, and it just feels like such a brainwashing of so many people, who are completely snowed to what's going on. And I know they feel the exact opposite about us, which is, but it's like when people only follow the news that all of his friends has now acquired and Truth Social. I mean, when the rest of the world is painting a different picture here, you can follow literally pretty much any other news organization in the world, like me living in London and watching other news organizations report on what's happening in the States. It's like, it's hard for me to see how anyone could approve of what's happening in the States with Project 2025. Sadly, I think people in the States, and the more social media is been acquired by his friends, and I feel like a bit the algorithms are being a bit controlled differently now. Like, it's horrifying. It's the Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, that's the monopolizing, right, of the media sources, which is in Project 2025. I don't understand why more Americans haven't read it. I mean, it's free access. You just Google it, and the whole 900 pages of as you say, mortifying information is on there. Oh, Texas just did a statewide mandatory Bible now being taught in the schools there. So yeah, they're going to start with the younger generation, right? The indoctrinating, just basically creationism. Whenever there's a movement, there's always a counter movement. So I think about, the civil rights activists of the 60s,
Right.
and everything they accomplished. And, with every generation, this country growing more and more diverse and embracing equality, even though women still, last time I was given a number, made 83 cents to man's every dollar. So Project 2025, how are they going to do this, right? How are they going to get their Christian nationalist specific agenda through, and it's through policy changes and incentivizing individuals with disability act. Project 2025 is going to do with protections for disabled people. For instance, I got a Pell Grant when I went back to school because my mother raised me as a single parent.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had to prove you're of a certain low socioeconomic background, right, to be able to get the Pell Grant. Free money to better society through impoverished people getting educated. That
Makes
just
sense.
society.
Yeah.
So they're taking that away. No matter what profession, you were promised a repayment of student loans.
Forgiveness of student loans.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Forgiveness of
Yeah.
student loan. Yeah. So they're taking that away too. They need money for the Department of what used to be Defense is now War. Basically, any kind of incentives the Democratic administrations would have on for bringing people out of poverty are going away.
Which is horrible. They already took SNAP benefits.
SNAP benefits. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And also, corporations are going to continue getting more and more tax breaks. So, what this creates is an even greater divide than we already have between the rich classes and the lower classes. One thing Project 2025 does, and how this will impact women make up 2/3 of the workforce that make the lowest amount of money. When you think about like feminized careers, healthcare,
Teachers,
teacher, yeah,
hugely, especially the younger, yeah.
Right, yeah. How Project 2025 is going to push the Christian nationalist agenda is it's taking away Title IX, sex discrimination protections, gender, sexual orientation, all those kind of protections against discrimination.
Right.
We're not going to have that anymore. And I think about women have outnumbered men in higher education for decades. And so that is going to be less incentivized.
Educated people are dangerous. Educated women are dangerous to their agenda.
Absolutely. Oh, I think they just had a turning point rally where I think her last name was Clark, went on and said the women in Turning Point are really encouraging girls to get young adults to get married while they're still in high school. So what kind of independence can women have if
Right.
that's what they're encouraging and maybe eventually incentivizing?
Right. It's like all those years of the ERA and women's rights and whatever to fight for the right to work, to fight for the right to have a bank account without a man's name on the account, credit card, all that stuff is just like feels like we've just done a massive backslide.
Yeah. You think of, like you said, the suffragettes from the turn of the century, right? All of our ancestors just really fought for women's rights.
And we're in the fight right now. Like all of this stuff hasn't happened yet. It's in the process of trying to be taken away, right? Because I don't want people to watch and go, oh my God, there's no hope for us. I want people to understand that like now is the time to show up. Now is the time to speak out. And I know that neither you or I are absolute. We're not authorities. We're not specialists in Project 2025.
No.
We are people who are affected by 2025 because we're women and we're part of the LGBTQ plus community. So how much of this do you feel like we need to worry about as far as the difference in what can be taken away by this administration federally what can be taken away by states, there are some protections that have already come to pass for the gay community, like Bostock. Are you familiar with Bostock?
No.
In the landmark 2020 case, Bostock versus Clayton County, U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which protects employees against discrimination because of sex, implicitly outlaws workplace discrimination against gay, lesbian, and transgender employees. This court's historic 6-3 decision established several core pillars for the LGBTQ legal protections in the states. So you cannot discriminate against a person for being homosexual or transgender without making their sex a primary factor in the decision, which is illegal. You can't fire or demote someone for sexual orientation. While Bostock strictly focused on employment, its legal reasoning has cascaded into other areas of civil rights too: healthcare, education, and housing. So what I've read is that Project 2025 cannot directly overturn a Supreme Court ruling like Bostock, but it contains explicit policy blueprints designed to severely restrict, narrow, and bypass how those rights are enforced by the federal government. So it's going to take quite a bit of work for them to take these rights from us, but that doesn't mean that they're not already very much in play. And that is kind of what I'm understanding Project 2025 outlines for this administration and people who support it. This is what I'm saying to you guys. Like, we have these rights right now. It's very important that, like you said, we all read this document. We're all aware of how they're going to try to go about these wily little ways to take these rights from us. Show up at the polls, vote. What else do you suggest, Gina? I mean, I don't know what else, honestly, I can do other than speak out and vote.
Yeah, especially for people who are so busy, right? It's hard to think
Yeah.
about what
Yeah.
can we do because we don't want to feel hopeless. So there's ways to show up and protest. I would Google 5051 organization and your local area where you are because it's nationwide.
What is
And
that?
what that organization does is they're just dialed into local communities on what bills are trying to be passed on a
Brilliant.
local level. For instance, here in South Carolina, and they were organizing, like showing up at Mace's office, and just asking her questions, trying to make her accountable. It's dialed into local communities on ways to mobilize and take action. And now we also have to think about shopping ethically. That's one thing.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Great point. Great point, Gina.
this administration, they're hyper capitalists. They want to control all the money, but if nobody's buying, right?
Yes.
So there's a couple apps. I'm just trying to figure out which one's the best. Some of them aren't working anymore, which makes me wonder why. Yeah, but so what I've done is I try to only look at Bluesky social media. Now, I know it has a different type of kind of platform, I guess. It's
Yep.
not like Facebook and Instagram where you can keep track of your friend. Like,
Right.
it's a little bit more politically motivated, I would say Bluesky is. But that
Yeah.
also means that like your information isn't given to the tech bros.
Right. I am on Bluesky as well, and I tried a couple times to like get going on that app, and I didn't have any traction with it. But I think you're right. I think it serves maybe a different purpose than the other ones too. You have to be so careful what you consume on each one of these platforms, right? And I've deleted so many people, unfollowed so many people that I don't want my algorithm skewed that way. And the brands too, like you said. Take for example what Target did to the LGBTQ community. They used to be such an advocate, and you'd walk in June and see all their happy pride paraphernalia right up front. And now it's like, no, they've dialed back DEI rights within their corporation, and you don't see that stuff anymore. And it's like, really? Well, so you're just supporting us during Pride because you want those dollars, and then the rest of the year. And now that this administration and all your buddies are in office who protect your corporate dollars even more,
Yeah.
It's like nobody wants to stand against that, these big corporations. So you're right. It is very important that we choose wisely and we don't feed into these corporations that don't support us and are actively trying to take us down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last I heard, Costco was still, they're like, yeah, we're not going to take away our DEI policy here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yay. And there are a
Um,
lot that are standing up to this administration as well. And I'll try to get a good list for the show notes too of like, here are some corporations that we should be supporting. I would love to find and like the app you were saying too, like alternate shopping sites for because I know everybody, a lot of people, I do too, at times rely on Amazon. I try not to. I try to find things locally, but if I can't, I'll go to Amazon,
yeah.
or I'll try to go directly to that supplier if it has to be shipped, but they make it so easy. It's hard for people to step away from that.
And one thing I would like to bring up as well is, it's not hard to make the connection between what Turning Point is going around to college campuses and saying. They're suggesting women do not need to go to college and just start a family.
Wow.
And how this administration is going to take the Project 2025 document and put it into their policies,
Mm-hmm.
i.e., rescinding any kind of sexual discrimination laws that were in place before. So we're going to have companies that just won't hire you.
That's right.
Or if you're already hired and they find out that if the head honcho doesn't like that you're a lesbian, fire you, no questions asked.
Hence why it's going to be very important to support
And
minority owned, women owned, LGBTQ plus owned.
yes, exactly. And that's where the ethical spending comes into play. A lot of companies, too, that are women owned put a stamp on their product. That's something to look for, too.
Absolutely. And in the States, you can get a certification. I used to have on my production companies, WBENC, Women's Business Entertainment, something, something, something anyway. But so you can look for those, you're right, those logos and whatnot to support, even if they don't have the logo, if it's women owned and you can prove that it's women owned.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Worthy cause.
There's also womensmarch.com that you can also sign up for their email list. They involve that way as well.
And Gay Pride we just had in the States and is about to happen in the UK. Happy Pride, London.
Happy Pride.
For those of you who have the financial wherewithal, supporting organizations like the ACLU, any other big organizations that that are doing like really good things to move us in the right direction, Gina?
Yeah, especially for the younger LGBTQIA plus community, Trevor Project.
Yes. And the Trevor Project assists with kids who are thinking of unaliving themselves. They provide counselors 24/7 by phone for someone to call in if need be. I'm sure they do a lot more than I'm aware of, but I know that's been invaluable to a lot of people in our community.
Yes. Yes. Helped many people stay alive for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we talk about how this is affecting the trans community? Okay, y'all. So here's another direct excerpt from this glorious document. Pornography manifested today in the omnipresent propagation of transgender ideology and sexualization of children, for instance, is not a political Gordian knot. I had to look up what a Gordian knot was because I didn't know. A Gordian knot is a metaphor for an extremely complex, intricate, or seemingly unsolvable problem. Whatever. Inextricably binding up disparate claims about free speech, property rights, sexual liberation, and child welfare. It has no claim to First Amendment protection. Its purveyors are child predators and misogynistic exploiters of women. Their product is as addictive as any illicit drug and as psychologically destructive as any crime. Pornography should be outlawed. The people who produce it and distribute it should be imprisoned. Educators and public librarians who purvey it should be classed as registered sex offenders, and telecommunications and technology firms that facilitate its spread should be shuttered.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, there's so much to unpack there. I don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
Starting with our beloved transgender community who, those of us who actually have trans friends, nothing could be further from the truth. I see no evidence anywhere of them being child predators. This is something, again, that's been manifested in their brain, and something that there's something different here that they don't understand. And they're trying to just shove it aside and go, don't listen to what they have to say. There's something wrong with them. They're mentally ill. Nothing could be further from the truth. If you've ever met these people, they are kind. They're just, I mean, they have it the hardest of any of us. They're literally just trying to live their lives.
They definitely do.
And pedophiles, like, hi, have you seen who's in the White House? Have you heard of the Epstein files? Just asking. Not a single trans person on that list, by the way.
One thing that this administration understands is mere exposure and how it's fallacy of thought, basically. So it takes away our critical thinking. And they just, like, you hear things repeated like woke.
Right.
And feminist,
Yeah.
and Antifa, and all of a sudden they're bad words. It's like, okay, so woke means that you're educated.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And
Okay, so
you're actually awake to what's happening. You're not
yeah,
sleeping through it blindly.
right. Antifa, anti-fascist. Didn't our grandparents fight in World War II against the fascist Hitler? It just,
Thank you.
anti-fascists are terrorists.
Right.
Wow. Okay, the drag queens, we need to keep them away from the children. It just doesn't make any sense. The trans individuals don't have like a sexual perversion. it's they're expressing who they are, who they
That's
feel,
right.
their authentic selves.
Right.
All these mere exposure tactics that they do. Oh yeah, eating the cats and the dogs, the immigrants, we have to get them out of the country. Part of it's also shock factor. It's like stuff that's in your head, like, what the hell?
Right.
But it all diverts the attention away from them and what they're truly trying to do.
They've done an excellent job at shocking the country and diverting attention away from what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, the First Amendment rights is like fundamental freedoms of religion and speech, and it's just a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Can I say that?
Of course you can.
How the Project 2025 document preaches the First Amendment rights and what they call civil rights.
I've never seen so much manipulation as in this document. Like the way words are twisted. And like you said, certain words are interjected to manipulate what they're actually, the points they're, I'm like, whoa, this is a severely group of manipulative individuals that wrote this document. Severely.
Yeah. And a couple of them too are, there's a few writers, Russ Foe and the last name Guy Carr. These are these are actually people that are in the administration.
Right. Exactly.
Just like, people that were like newscasters on Fox are in the administration right now.
But the last point I wanted to make about the trans community too, being associated with pornography, I'm not sure why pornography gets associated with trans. Pornography is across the board. Like you have straight porn, you have gay porn, you have midget porn, you have everything. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't like it, don't watch it. Don't put your children around it. It has nothing to do with, I have no idea what porn trans people watch. I have no idea because I've never heard one of them talk about it. Like my trans friends, like it just is not a topic of conversation. Like, what are you talking about? Again, manipulation. Again, twisting of putting words into our brains that don't belong there, associations that don't belong there. What are you talking about? And it's like, what happened to give me you're tired, you're poor, what happened to this being an immigrant nation? It's like it was good long enough to build up a certain amount of equity and corporations, and then it was like, oh, gates are closed. We've got enough. Now we are going to extract the power that we have within our own system and work from there. When I read this document, I had to take breaks. I was like, I would get so angry and I would just be sitting here spouting off to myself like, oh, it makes me so angry, the manipulation. So coming on here today, I had to just sort of be like, okay, I'm just going to breathe and give some information and let people research what they will. I
Yeah.
have to laugh because it's like, what the F are you talking about? You know?
And I think about Project 2025 because they bring up civil rights quite a bit. But the way that the architects of it intellectualize it is like they have lost a lot of their rights.
Right.
But
They've lost zero rights. Zero rights they've lost, by the way.
so just the closed-mindedness of it, when it comes down to it, it just keeps the white male in power, really.
Mhm.
Specifically, Project 2025 incentivizes you in the workplace. If you will go up in the company ladder, so to speak, the stronger your faith is.
Really? I had not
Yeah.
heard this.
Yeah. So if you're Christian or of the Jewish faith, i.e., the Israel slash American war on Gaza, yeah, but just keeping the white male in power because I forget exactly the timeline, but the way that this country was going, the white population was going to be the minority. So the architects of Project 2025 had to put a stop to it. I had one of my clients tell me that who is a white male, not Christian, and he's being really honest with me, which I appreciated. We don't want to give up equality to women and other minorities because we feel we might not get it back.
Why do you need it? Why do you need it to begin with? Why can't it just be let the people who are fit to lead lead? And what is wrong with equality? I don't understand why someone has to be here and someone has to be here. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, well,
Patriarchy.
I'm talking about power structure.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, there's the power over which this administration obviously is doing. There's power with,
Right.
power with like Bernie Sanders,
Yeah.
Mondani,
Yes. I love him.
Elizabeth Warren. Yeah.
Love AOC,
AOC.
Jasmine Crockett,
Yeah. I mean,
Justin Pearson. There's a lot of people at the doing good things right now, but God, we've got to support them.
we
They are
do.
fighting a fight right now, an uphill battle.
Yeah. And you just think about it, it's like there's more of us than they are of them.
True.
Look at our president. He has really done that, us versus them.
Right.
Another thing I'd like to bring up is the SAVE Act. There's an app, the 5 calls that I mentioned before. The president is really trying to push it through. So it goes through all these courts. The House passed it, but it cannot pass. And they're going under the guise of, well, we have to stop the trans people from voting.
And the SAVE Act is the one that is dictating that now you have to have passport or something to vote.
Yeah, if you have changed your name and it's different than your birth certificate, then you either have to bring your birth certificate or your passport. More than 21.3 million Americans lack immediate access to documenting proof of their citizenship.
Wow.
Yeah. And 69 million women who have taken their spouse's last name do not have a birth certificate that matches their legal name. Not everyone's going to have access, people in rural communities, the financial means, to actually get a passport.
Right. Like, do you guys understand what she's talking about right now? Like, if as a married woman, your last name is now different than what was on your birth certificate, you don't qualify to vote without your birth certificate or a passport. So a driver's license won't suffice.
No.
That's
This is
horrifying.
why we have to really tell all of our friends about
Yes.
opposing the SAVE Act. It doesn't save anything.
Very manipulative title.
To take away the voting rights of mostly women.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how there's a difference between Christianity and the Christian nationalist nation.
Sure.
James Tillerico talks about it.
Yep.
I've often thought, well, we need a counter to Turning Point. James would have been the perfect one to do it, but now he's going to be busy. The social science research has shown that people do better when they are joined into a community.
For sure.
That's why, not that we need faith healing, but people overall, it does something physiologically to our bodies when we feel like we're part of a community.
For sure.
So Yeah.
We're very social beings, you know?
Yeah, even the introverts are,
Yeah.
even the introverts need to feel like they're a part of something. Look to your local communities, find your people, get together once a week, do something fun, something that's just not complaining about our situation, but enjoy each other, come to rely on each other.
I rave about the meetup groups on here too. And I'm telling you, like, especially for the LGBTQ community, there's so many great meetup events. If you travel or if you just moved, seek those out. Look for those in your area, or even an LGBTQ Facebook group in your area. Like, all those are ways to find people that you can meet up with, in real life, IRL. Which is
IRL.
so important. It's great to have online community, but you're right. It hits the dopamine levels entirely differently when you're physically with people who are like you, who support you. You support each other. There's a safety, there's a feeling of safety there that just doesn't compare.
Absolutely, because that is what this administration wants, is for us to become divided. Now it's
Right.
a time for us to come together, and not just in a defense all the time, but also enjoy each other and realize how we can help each other out. I wanted to also mention that Pete Hegseth is having church service in the Pentagon now, led by a fellow named Doug Wilson, who is a self-proclaimed, I guess, Christian nationalist preacher fellow. I'm not sure if he wrote a book or did a forward, but he is tied into this book that is titled Empathy is Sin. And this is what the Christian nationalist church is preaching.
Wow.
Right? To get away from all the bleeding heart liberals,
Right.
but that's not true Christian value.
No, it's not.
Love your neighbors. Yeah, all that. Pam Brown did an interview with Doug Wilson. I want to say it was sometime last year. On CNN. You can watch it, but I tell you, it's hard to stomach. But he ultimately says that the voting should go to the head of the household, which is the male, because the woman is entrusted to take care of the children and take care of the husband. So that is what the SAVE Act is in a roundabout way. See how sneaky this administration is pushing the Project 2025 around. So it's very insidious. He also said in the same interview that he thinks homosexuals should be punished. And when Pamela Brown asked how, he did not respond to that question. That is absolutely frightening. That somebody that is in the Pentagon with Pete Hegseth's, okay and endorsement, thinking that homosexuals need to be punished.
Yeah.
And women should not vote. That is very fucking concerning. So this is why it's really important in your local communities to gather and get to know who are your people and solidify up. Yeah.
Yeah, and speak out and listen. If you're homebound or if you're shy, you can show up locally too, just in conversations with friends. I know sitting here in the South right now, and you're sitting in the South, things come up all the time. Little jokes are like, oh, that's gay or whatever. Those little tiny conversations even matter, whether it seems like you go along with those comments or not. Like, you can make a difference in the smallest of ways and just be like, hey, I'm gay. I really would appreciate if you don't say that. Speaking up is more important now than ever, and we cannot worry about how it's going to make somebody feel if it means our rights. I don't understand this lack of empathy from the other side. I don't understand it. And as someone who grew up Christian in the South, that's not what I was taught. And I'm still a big lesbian. Like, look, I turned out to be Christian and lesbian for quite a while. I have since leaned away from Christianity a bit because what is taught in the church isn't what Jesus taught. Like, you know what I mean? So I love Jesus. I appreciate what he had to say. And I don't agree with what's being taught right now. I'm just like, how can people not recognize the difference?
Organized religion had to be done right. For the churches to get their money from the attendant so their church can get bigger and so they don't have to pay taxes. And I mean, it's just all a little not really true spirituality.
No,
Yeah.
it's not, unfortunately. But that's another story. Uh, anyway, thank you very much for being willing to come on and talk about this. And thank you for educating me at lunch that day because I had not read the document. I had heard what people said and I had listened to, like Rep AOC and people that I respect that follow it that were bringing points up. And I just thought, okay, they've got this, I'll just vote for them and they've got this. But no, it is so important to take a deeper dive and know for yourself and understand exactly what Gina and I were just talking about here, because these rights can be stripped away if we're not careful and if we don't show up.
Yeah, and we're all constituents, right, of our local areas. If we don't make these calls, which the 5 Calls app, if you sign up, put your zip code in, and all this stuff is free. The people that are elected in our local communities won't know it, that we're really pissed about it.
Right. So I'll put links to this stuff, y'all, in the show notes. And thank y'all for following along and listening. And I'd love to hear in your comments below. I'm not going to tolerate any hate. I will delete you. Sorry, it's my page. I can do what I want. You're welcome. This is a supportive LGBTQ page, and I would love to hear from those of you out there how you are showing up in your own communities. Like, let's help each other out. This page should be a resource. The comments should be a resource for us to interact with each other, to help each other out. So, also, if you could please like and follow the podcast, helps us out so much. It helps spread the word. And Gina, if people want to follow you or find you or eventually maybe hire you for your services one day, how do they do that?
I'm on Bluesky, and it's Gina May Drums. Bluesky Social. So
thank you really for being on here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. This was a great opportunity, and I always love chatting with you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
All right. Stay strong out there, y'all, and thank you for being here. And I'll see you on the next one.
Just a reminder, y'all, I'm not a doctor. Everything I share here is for entertainment and encouragement, not medical advice. The views you hear are mine or my guests, not my sponsors. Any similarity to real people is purely coincidence.